Hello, I'm Flora, speaking out as usual. This is my fifth time on YouTube. And thank you for coming and letting me share things I've witnessed over the last 100 years that I think have great relevance to our crisis in our nation today. I talk about speaking out, but I will admit that last Sunday, I was actually speechless for about 5 minutes. I was watching Christine Welker and NBC interviewing President Donald Trump, and she asked him, do you as president need to uphold the Constitution of the United States? His answer, I don't know. I don't know. Now, millions of us have watched his inauguration last January and watched him with his upraised hand making a solemn oath, saying, I, the president, I will solemnly swear to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States of America. The Constitution, almost 250 years old, that defines who we are as a nation, that ensures our human rights, the cause of the American Revolution. They wanted to be sure that no despot would ever threaten human rights again. And that's why the Constitution was written. So what was going on with President Trump when he said that? Was he so involved he felt it was not an important question to take seriously? Did he actually forget his oath? Was there some kind of creeping dementia in the case? Or was he actually speaking out about an agenda which has very little to do with human rights in the Constitution? And I don't know which of those alternatives are scarier. As I was in my silence after that trauma, I was thinking of the very first inauguration I watched of a president. I was 9 years old. It was 1937, and Franklin Roosevelt was beginning his second term. Newsreels in those days, of course. We'd heard it on the radio, but next time we went to the movies, we saw it in newsreels. And I still remember the winter light shining down on his glasses and his silky, tall hat that he wore. And the greatness of the man born to wealth and a powerful family, but who never lost his compassion for the poor, the disadvantaged, and was taking us step by step with both wisdom and strength and common sense out of the devastating Great Depression, one of the worst crises of our whole nation's history. And I've watched every inauguration since. I was not thinking only about inaugurations and the almost sacramental moment when a president stands in front of his people and gives that oath to protect their rights. I was remembering a high school class. Must have been back in 1943 or 44. And I have reason to remember this wonderful professor of our civics course, not only because later on his son married my sister, but because he was the first teacher I'd ever had to hammer in the meaning of the Constitution into our brains, our young teenage brains. We couldn't hope for even a passing grade if we didn't know all about the Bill of Rights, if we didn't know about the amendments, if we didn't know that the government was formed of three equal powers, the executive, the legislative, and the judiciary, and that our founding fathers set it up that way as a balance of powers, so no one group could become despotic. We had to learn all those things. And all he taught us is being threatened. He told us what to demand if someone in the universe, someone in a uniform stood on our front doorstep wanting to search our house or to put us under arrest. He saw sure that we would remember our rights, what we had a right to demand in those cases. All he taught is being threatened, and all these aspects that he drilled into us of our rights as American citizens. For example, our president, Donald Trump, is trying to bring all three branches of the government under the control of the executive. I was talking about courts last week, that the best way to break the resistance of a country, if you're a despot, is to intimidate the courts and the judges and the lawyers and get them under your control, because any resistance then becomes a crime by definition. He is threatening the Supreme Justices with impeachment. He is ignoring, defying an order of the Supreme Court to bring the innocent Mr. Garcia back from El Salvador. Stephen Miller, his most cruel advisor, you remember him as the man in Trump's first administration who came up with the idea of separating children from their parents as the immigrants and putting the children, including very young, helpless ones, into holding pens like cages. Well, Stephen Miller has come up with the idea that the administration is taking very seriously. Let us now suspend habeas corpus, which is only done when a nation has been invaded or at war. And according to Stephen Miller, any immigrant is an invader. And if they suspend habeas corpus, that would mean anybody could be picked off the street and put in some kind of internment for an indefinite time without any promise of any kind of legal due process. This is so much more dangerous than this chaotic mess of the tariffs. This is gutting at the very heart of our nation. The other day, Trump said, and I heard him say it, "I run the nation and I run the world." Most of us have outgrown that illusion by the time we graduate from kindergarten. You know, we sing the national anthem about the proof through the night that our flag was still there. Is our flag still there? I mean the real flag, not the one that President Trump likes to hug in his rallies. I mean the flag that is the symbol of liberty and justice for all. You know, when you and I say the Pledge of Allegiance, we are also taking a solemn oath that we will preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and the human rights for which it stands. I feel that this time we need to ask ourselves this question: is our flag still there? I know I need to ask the question. As I confessed to you last week, I've been very complacent for many years about, of course, our country will always remain a democracy. What else? We may be set back several decades by this administration. At some points, we are already severely set back. But it need not be wasted time if we're seriously asking ourselves, what does my oath of allegiance, my pledge of allegiance, mean for me? And in what way can I defend and protect and uphold the Constitution, each in my own personal way? It won't be wasted time. Maybe this is a time we all needed very badly to look again at our values and our choices. Thank you. Thank you so much for letting me share with you. And I'll see you next week.